Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zak's Traders Cafe for Monday, the 6th of October. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which is approaching our long-awaited target there at 95.50 or so, 95.60 actually, to be more precise. We were looking for that by the end of this month, and obviously it looks as though we might get there a little bit sooner. Recent support towards 94.20, maybe a low down to 9400, but above 9400, looking for 95.60. Hopefully quite easily. In terms of the greater target, a more longer term target, ideally by the end of next month, we could be up towards 97.60. And if you want to have that as an end of year target, probably that wouldn't be a bad thing either. In terms of any rug pulls, not expecting anything lower now than the old August-September resistance zone in the 93.60 zone. Moving along to the DAX, and here the picture decent after the gap higher last week. We've held above the top of the gap there, around 24,200. And while that's the case, looking for a pretty quick move up towards the top of the channel there from April, as high as 25,700. Ideally, we stay on the right side of that 50-day line there, 25,900. Moving on to the Dow, which obviously I looked at yesterday, but it's always exciting to have another look. Here you can see that we broke September resistance quite easily, 46,600, and fast approaching 47,900, the top of that rising trend channel from May last year. That's our target for the end of this month, while we're on the right side of 46,000. Worst case here is that we've got to test the 50-day line there, 45,300, but at the moment, it looks as though we might get away with staying on the right side of 46,000, especially given the way that we've risen, even though we are in US shutdown fears mode at the moment. Moving on to the cryptos, and it was a happy day yesterday for Bitcoin, temporarily hitting a new high through 125,000. Above 118, we're looking for, hoping for 134,000 now, which is the top of that rising trend channel from back in February. If you're a bull of the market, which obviously one or two people may be at the moment, probably at this stage, looking for a best case scenario target by the end of the year as high as 150,000, in fact 152,000, which is a November resistance line projection from last year. It's effectively the top of a wider channel from November with a support line at the March uptrend line that we already have in place. Worst case at this stage, probably a rug pull down to the 50-day line just below 114. Ideally, we stay above 118, recent broken resistance. On to Ethereum, which, as I said yesterday, has been a bit of a disappointment. I suppose, given the way it is, it's still continuing to be a bit of a disappointment, but at least we are up at 1% today, above a rising 50-day line there at 43.92, and having broken an RSI resistance line there around the 56 level. That means that we are, in theory, looking towards the top of the channel there, 5,300, perhaps as soon as the end of this month, and ideally by the end of next month, whatever happens. There is a rug pull. We've got the floor of the channel there just below 4,000 as a potential support point, but it should be the case now with the RSI through 50 and the RSI breakout that the 50-day line is the support for this market. Moving on to gold, where it's almost sort of a rising every day. This is the old print from Friday, but basically looking for this market to head up as high as 41.60, 41.70 by the end of next month or even sooner, while we're on the right side of recent broken resistance at 3,800. Moving on to the stocks, and we have a selection today. Probably not as big a selection as one might have thought, but starting off with Alba Mineral Resources, and here broken back above the 200-day line. Traditionally, in the recent past, the 200-day line has been the selling point or the buying point. But the difference between now and the other times when we broke through the 200-day line is that the 50-day line is rising. And if we've had a rebound above a rising 50-day line and a rebound above RSI 50, so that's a double signal, and that leaves us looking for 0.028 on the shares by the end of this month. Obviously, fundraising permitting. Obviously, they can resist having a fundraise. I'm trying to see the last time when they had one, but Might take too long for me to work that out, but you get the message, you get the drift on that one. But a good double, triple signals there on Alba, so hopefully we can head up to the high 20s while we're above the 50-day line at 0.016. On to Amazing AI, who I interviewed earlier this morning, and I think they are enjoying that interview, which actually was a pretty decent interview. Here you can see that we've bounced above a rising, bounced above a rising 50-day line there at 1.13. As you know, that is a pretty good continuation signal, or at least a recovery signal, in fact. And the hope here is that we head up to the top of the gap there, up towards 2.75 pence. That gap down from July, that's our target while we're above the 50-day moving average over the near term. Hope to get there by the end of this month. On to Amaroq, which has had a rather torrid time of late, but even it looks as though it can't resist the effects of the rising gold price at the moment, and looking for the shares to head back towards £1, hopefully on an end of day close above 85 pence, which is that resistance line, the top of that falling trend channel from October. If you're fussy, you would say that you want the shares to be back above the 200-day moving average at 86 pence before targeting £1 plus by the end of this month. The other thing to note is we've got a rising 50-day line. We had an unfilled gap off the lows there. It was a bear trap gap reversal at the beginning of last month. And also we've had a couple of RSI 50 rebounds in the mix as well. So the shares are on their way. Probably the best case scenario at the moment would be a move up to that resistance line there, 105, but it's basically the post-March resistance for the shares. Moving along to Catenai, which seems to be getting decent support on X at the moment. Looks like we're in a mid-move consolidation here towards 0.5 pence. That was our initial target. The next target here up to obviously the old April resistance at 0.88 pence. So we're looking for that by the end of next month or even sooner while we remain above, or at least on the right side of 0.4. You can see multiple RSI 50 rebounds in the recent past, and the 50 and 200-day lines both rising as well at the moment. Golden Cross to start October, so looking pretty strong there. A stock which I hardly ever look at, and I don't think anybody else does either, is GetBusy, but it's had a great couple of months, and we're in a wide rising trend channel. Top of the channel there from 2023 heading towards up to £1.10. We're looking for that by as soon as the end of next month while we remain above recent broken resistance at 73 pence. You can see all those strong candles that we've had four in the last few days. It almost looks as though something rather big is on its way for that company. On to Mast, which had one of the worst rug pulls. In fact, it's had two horrible rug pulls now since the beginning of last month. Tentatively trying to get back again, but what's interesting now is whether we can get back above the old September support there. It's 57 pence. That's the initial target while we're above the 200-day moving average around the 41 pence level. So let's see if Mast can recoup itself. But once you start seeing that kind of a sort of white knuckle ride, it's rather difficult for a stock to get back in business because it would have upset one or two people. On to TAP, where I'm hoping one day the pesky seller towards 3 pence will go. It obviously won't be today, but at least here we are trying to get higher lows in place. We've also got rising 50 and 200-day lines, so we're potentially in the run up to a golden cross. And also we've had three rebounds at or above neutral 50 in the RSI. So hopefully we will get there through that 3 to 3.5 pence area. But it has to be said, it still looks as though someone is on the offer and may continue to be so until 3.5 pence is properly taken out. Any dips towards that 200-day line at 1.8, still a potential long opportunity. On to Verici or Verici. Here we've got a rising trend channel base bounding towards the neutral 50 RSI level, just below it in the last instance, but gapped higher today and just need to clear that 0.8 pence area in a convincing way, and we'll be looking at 1.2 pence, perhaps even as soon as the end of this month. Ideally, we stay on the right side of the floor of the gap there at 0.65 pence. Finishing off with Wildcat Petroleum, where it would appear that after trying to get the stock down on Thursday, which failed, the shares are pushing higher quite nicely. There was resistance on the way down at 0.14. That's now looking to become support, and still looking for that 0.24 target, which is the top of that broadening triangle, and also 1 year resistance for the shares. So doing rather well at the moment. Interesting, in fact, the way that the company managed to come back from suspension and leaves the market open to speculate what any deal might be. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.